Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. You might notice I'm not in my house. I'm currently just at a friend's house. I was expecting to film today, then I was like, no wait, I really want to get this video out, and I'm quite busy, so I decided to do it here. I stole his bedroom. Okay, no, I'm borrowing it for like an hour. Kyra's here as well, snoring beside me. And I have none of my usual kit, so I'm borrowing a microphone, I'm borrowing lights. The only thing that is mine is the camera, and that's on a tripod that isn't even mine. But, you know, I want to make this video for you guys, so here we are. Alright, the video. Anti-maskers. Let's talk about this. So I'm not sure how many of you guys were around back in the day when So I have a fake Facebook profile, and I'd like to say it's for some kind of like girly gossipy reason, but it's not at all. It's for YouTube videos, because I have this fake profile whose name will remain anonymous, and I created it back in the day to join a bunch of anti-vax and urine therapy and homeopathy and weird parenting groups on Facebook, just so I could kind of see what was going on and make a few videos about it. You might remember these videos. The anti-vax one went down pretty well. The urine therapy one was also very popular, but then the people in those urine therapy groups got a little bit mad at me for calling them out for drinking their own pee. So that was fun. The aim of those videos basically was where like we discussed the scientific merits, or rather the flaws if we're gonna be honest, of what the people in these groups were saying. And it was honestly like pretty eye-opening. Like I learned a hell of a lot by doing those videos. Like it's easy as an outsider to look at people in those kinds of groups and think, oh, well, you know, they're just dangerous idiots. What more is there to say? But there actually is a lot more to say and talk about. And sometimes you actually need to stop and listen to them and kind of look at the profiles behind the people saying these things to realize, hang on a minute, these are real people. And they're not just idiots online. I mean, they are idiots online spewing harmful stuff, but they're not just idiots online spewing harmful stuff. There are genuine reasons behind what they're saying and why they believe what they do, and sometimes actually listening to them and trying to understand where they're coming from can go a hell of a long way towards educating not only them but people like them or people who might be on the fence, you know? Once you start to learn from each other and understand each other, that's how society as a whole can grow. That's how you actually stop misinformation from spreading, and you can actually figure out what's harmful and what isn't. Basically what I'm saying is that's the point of these videos. And recently I opened back up that old account, which I haven't been on for months, in order to join a few anti-mask Facebook groups. And at the time of planning this video, I only got accepted into one. And it's this one in particular. It's a group of people based in the UK who, for one reason or another, don't like the idea of wearing face masks in public. They don't want to do it, or they believe it's wrong to do it, and they very, very strongly and vocally oppose this. You know, despite the fact there is a worldwide pandemic happening right now. So this group is simply called No Mask UK, and they describe their philosophy as masks are not necessary, let's talk about it, UK. And come on, you know these guys are legit, and they seriously know their stuff, because they don't even have time to mess around with basic grammar or punctuation, you know? Their message is so urgent, they just need to get it out, you know? Let's talk about it. Masks are not necessary. These guys are the real deal, okay? No mocking them. So with that in mind, we are going to kick things off by looking at this post full of absolutely flawless logic. This individual here says, "It's been 6 months. Shouldn't all the people who don't wear masks be dead by now?" Yeah, oh my god. He has a point, doesn't he? This right here, if I hadn't read this, I'd still be out there wearing my masks, trying to save people's lives. But this has changed my mind. This here is absolute flawless logic, and the ultimate proof that masks don't do anything. It's clearly all one big it's clearly all one big conspiracy. I can't even speak at this point. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm giggling too much. But seriously, this here, sorry, I'm looking at my laptop as I'm talking, and I know I'm not looking at you, sorry. This here is such a ridiculous misconception, but it is the perfect one to start this video on. because it gives us a great opportunity to talk about the basics of the COVID-19 virus, and it gives us a wonderful opportunity to talk about what masks do and why they're important. So it's a good one to kick off this video with. So let's talk very, very briefly about COVID-19, and there's a lot more I could say and that should be said about it, but for this video, for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to cover the basics, and I'm going to try to explain it all in a really, really simple way. I don't want to overwhelm anyone. I want to make this as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. So, with that in mind, COVID-19, the big nasty that is causing this big worldwide pandemic and the absolutely heartbreaking deaths of far too many people. COVID-19 is a virus, which basically means once you're infected with it, the only way to get better is for your body to learn how to fight it off itself. Medicines like antibiotics aren't going to help. They only help fight against bacteria. For a virus, your body needs to learn how to fight it off itself. That's why vaccines are so important, because they introduce your body to a version of the virus, a new virus that they haven't seen before, that's essentially not live, if we want to put it like that. So it's not going to go crazy and multiply so much and take over your body. It's not going to set off too much of an immune response, maybe a small one, but not enough to get you very, very ill. It's just basically introducing it to the body for it to say, hey look, this is what the bad guy looks like. Learn how to fight it before you come into contact with the actual bad guy. But sadly, we don't have a vaccine for COVID-19. It's far too young, it's far too early, we just haven't had the time to develop one yet and check and test it safely and so on. And this is wherein the problem lies. The thing is, for the average healthy adult, you do not know how many takes that took me to say that. For the average healthy adult, a virus like COVID-19, if it infects you, you're going to be ill, you're going to be pretty rough, but you probably will survive. You will have a good enough immune system to fight it off. That's not what the problem is here. The issue is, however, that people who are already ill or vulnerable in some way are in a hell of a lot of danger if they catch COVID-19. They are far more likely to die from the coronavirus than the average person. So if someone's immune system is already busy or depleted for any reason, they won't have the resources within them to learn how to fight off this new nasty virus, which is COVID-19, and they're more likely to die. This could be the case for any number of high-risk people. You know, maybe they have an immunodeficiency disorder, maybe they're going through chemotherapy, maybe they already have another illness, maybe they are elderly. It could be any number of reasons, but we say these people are high risk because they don't have as good an immune system as most of the population, which means if they do catch the virus, they're not going to be able to fight it off, there's no treatment for them, they're likely to die. So the way to protect this group of people is to try and make sure they never catch it in the first place, to make sure they're not exposed to it in the first place. If you want to find out any more information about the virus or about what makes someone or a group of people high risk or any of the other things I'm talking about in this video, there are going to be links down in the description below, so please go check them out because they're very, very interesting and they can say a hell of a lot more than I can in this one short video. The other thing to be very aware of that we really need to know that's really important that sets COVID-19 aside from a lot of other viruses is that it is very, very highly infectious. It's very, very easy for this virus to be passed between people, which means that you don't need a lot of exposure to catch the virus quite severely, if that makes sense. Which means these high-risk people, even if someone just in the vicinity has this virus, they could very, very easily catch it. So the idea is basically we need to reduce the overall spread of the virus to reduce the chance of these high-risk people and groups from being infected so we can ensure as few people die from this virus as possible. Because no one wants people to die, right? At least I hope you don't. If you do, you're very, very mean. Stop it. So that's the thing. You as an individual watching this might be a perfectly healthy person, and because of this, you might have got COVID-19, you might be carrying it, you might be spreading it around, but because your immune system is able to fight it off, you might not even be showing any symptoms. You might be carrying this virus around and spreading it around everywhere without even knowing. In the regular non-lockdown, non-mask wearing, non-social distancing world that we're so used to, think about how many people you come into contact with on a daily basis. Whether you realize it or not, chances are you are interacting with a hell of a lot of people who would be at high risk from COVID-19. That means even if you catch the virus and, you know, you're not going to die, you're going to be a little bit ill, it's not going to be a problem. In the regular world, you just going about your day as you do is likely to infect and kill so many people. And I'm pretty sure no one wants that. That's why these safety measures are in place. Not necessarily to protect you, a healthy, regular adult, but to protect the vulnerable and the high-risk people. You, as a healthy adult, are the perfect carrier, going around to all these places, spreading your water vapor everywhere, meeting all these high-risk people. You are the perfect little transport for it to go out and kill people. And that's why, if you don't wear a mask, if you're not social distancing, if you're not part of quarantining or lockdown, if you're not following the rules that people have set in place to keep people safe, you are likely to kill people. This isn't necessarily about you, it's about the entire population and keeping as many people safe as possible. Our current understanding is, with the COVID-19 virus, that it's transmitted mainly through mouth and nose secretions, so like saliva or like water vapor when you cough or sneeze or even just breathe out and talking. Right now, me talking, without realizing it, so much water vapor from my mouth is spewing out everywhere all over the place. If someone was close enough to me, they would be hit with it. You are hit with people's water vapor and mouth liquids and nose liquids every single day without even realizing it. The amount of bacteria and germs and just liquid you are picking up from people on a daily basis is ridiculously high and a little bit disgusting when you think about it. Thankfully though, we don't get ill all that often because our immune systems are able to cope with it, because a lot of these things are viruses or bacteria that we're kind of used to and familiar with. But COVID-19 is new and it's unfamiliar and our bodies aren't prepared to fight it and we don't know how to deal with it. And we go and we pass it off to other people because it is so highly infectious. Because it's transmitted this way through like mouth and nose liquids and stuff like that, that's why it's so important to keep your distance from others. Wash your hands regularly, especially if you've been touching your face. Try to avoid touching your face at all, really. Wear a mask. And when you can, stay home. Stay away from other people. Don't go to big public gatherings if you can help it. And if you do, be sensible. Keep your distance from people. Wear masks, the sensible stuff, you know? It's not a matter of, well, I haven't worn a mask and I'm not dead yet, so clearly masks do nothing. That's not how it works. Masks are there not only to protect you, but to protect other people. Chances are, if you're going off wearing a mask and being all up in everyone's faces and stuff, chances are, yeah, you're not going to die as a healthy adult, but you've probably helped kill a few people. Is that really something you want on your conscience, just because you don't want to wear a mask? Sorry, I know that ended on a dark note, but that's how serious this topic is, you know? The next post we're going to look at reads, "So I've done really well going shopping without a mask, but tonight I came home in tears. Is it me, or are the mask wearers looking extremely comfortable now? Almost like they've given in to this so-called new normal. I also noticed that more children under the age of 11 are wearing masks. I feel absolutely gutted. No words." And oh, this was a few weeks ago now, so it's probably gone up. But at the point that I screenshotted this, 224 people had reacted to this with likes, sad faces, and little hugging emojis. 224 people in the UK agreed that it was sad to see people wearing masks. But the thing is, what this post is not going to like is, what I have to say to this is good. At this point, wearing masks should feel comfortable and normal and part of the routine. It shouldn't be weird. I mean, sure, it would be nice if the virus wasn't an issue at all, but it is. We can't deny that. It's there and it's a danger. And the more we normalise behaviour that will stop the spread of it and save lives, the better. The comments on this one were an absolute joke as well, right? It's like a horror movie every time I go shopping. I am normally the only one without a mask. Alright, number one, thank God there aren't more people like you not wearing masks. Thank God you're the only one. Still one too many though. And two, the horror film aspect isn't the fact that people are wearing masks. The horror aspect is that people like you are still refusing to cover their spit holes, and hundreds of thousands of people have died and are continuing to die because of you. Another response, one woman wrote, "Yes, it looks like one of those apocalyptic horror movies seeing everyone in masks walking around like zombies. It doesn't seem real somehow." Now, call me crazy, but I'd rather see everyone in masks walking around like zombies than seeing everyone dead. Because that's the other thing we have to consider, right? It's not just the fact that high-risk people are at risk right now. If we don't stop the spread as much as possible, and we let this continue, we let it transmit between more people, the more it spreads, the more it keeps replicating and blah blah blah, the more chance there is of it mutating and becoming even more deadly and dangerous, or infectious, or all of it. Another person writes, "They do look comfortable. I get so upset looking at them. They've been so brainwashed that they are now brain dead. And then some genius responded with, probably less oxygen because of the mask has damaged their little grey cells. Face masks do not reduce your oxygen intake. They just don't. It has been proven time and time and time again, especially not to any kind of degree where it would cause brain damage. It's literally ridiculous. I never thought I'd have to explain this to adults, but here's the thing, right? A mask, where's mine? A mask, look at this, you can even see the light through it. A mask is not completely solid. There are teeny tiny little holes in it, right? You can see this. Teeny tiny little holes, and there's layers, and some stuff can get through and some stuff can't, because it's not completely solid. The teeny tiny little holes let molecules like oxygen and carbon dioxide pass in and out without any problem. But as a physical barrier, it does stop things like spit and saliva and sneeze juice. What's sneeze juice? Like snot. Lovely. It stops all the bodily liquids that come out of your mouth and nose from getting through and hitting other people. It's good as a physical barrier, but it's still got enough tiny little holes in it to let gases through. And we have to remember that it's not the gases that carry the virus, it's the liquids. So think of it like this, right? I wrote a little analogy, and let me read this to you so I actually get this right, and I hope it makes sense. Imagine a swimming pool with two nets across it, right? And in this analogy, the nets are the face masks, and the water is the air. And at one end of the swimming pool, right, a person tips in a bunch of debris, and on some of this debris, there are little red spots. And the red spots are the virus, and the debris is like all our like spit and snot and stuff like that, okay? Lovely, I know. The nets across the pool, right, the holes are big enough to keep letting the water flow in and out and across the pool and so on, right? Which is great. That's the equivalent of letting people breathe and oxygen exchange and so on. But the nets, despite having holes in, they're physical barriers which catch these big bits of debris, which means the debris can't get out through the first net. It can't get through. And even if it can get through, it's okay because there's another net there to catch any of the little bits that get through. So if you breathe out, the water droplets hit that first net. And if any do manage to get through, it's okay because the other person is wearing a mask and they can't get in at that side because there's another net, you know? Therefore, even if someone is teeming debris into this one end of the pool, because of these nets, chances are the other end of the pool is going to be clear and free, both of debris and more specifically of the debris that has the red dots on it, the virus. Now the nets aren't 100% foolproof, maybe some little bits are still going to get through every now and again, but the nets drastically reduce the chance that anything bad is going to get through, and that's what we need. Basically, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're infected and you wear a mask, you're protecting other people. If someone else is infected and they're not wearing a mask but you are, you're less likely to catch it yourself. If someone else is infected and wearing a mask and so are you, the chances of you getting that virus are next to nothing. They're so tiny and slim compared to if neither of you are wearing masks and they're just like, virus. Basic stuff. Anyway, if you want to find out more about this stuff and have it explained to you in a way that is far better than I ever could, there's a great little article that's linked down in the comments below that looks at the effectiveness of masks in virus prevention and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a great little literature review of all kinds of studies. But yeah, the full paper is linked. Why is Hull full of idiots? Yeah, so the entire paper, if you want to read it, is down in the description below, but there's a great little summary conclusion here that's actually just from the abstract of the paper, but I thoroughly recommend you go read the whole thing because fascinating stuff. But I thought this might be quite helpful. Reducing disease spread requires two things. First, limit contacts of infected individuals via physical distancing and contact tracing with appropriate quarantine. And second, reduce transmission probability per contact by wearing masks in public, among other measures. The preponderance of evidence indicates that mask wearing reduces the transmission per contact by reducing transmission of infected droplets in both laboratory and clinical contexts. public mask wearing is most effective at stopping spread of the virus when compliance is high. The decreased transmissibility could substantially reduce death toll and economic impact, while the cost of intervention is low. The next post I actually thought was going to raise a slightly valid concern, but then no. So who else's mental health or health in general taking a battering from these depressing, horrible world? I've been poorly for a while now. I've never been so poorly from my mental health. Feels like I'm in a nightmare. Facepalm. Let's try and ignore that bad grammar. And look, I get it, you know? Lockdown, worries about job security, being kept apart from family and friends, your whole life being tipped upside down. It can take a toll on your mental health. It's not surprising at all. It's a very understandable and very, very valid concern. However, this next person's response is not valid. Paul here thinks we should all seek compensation from the government for all this. They would soon end all this nonsense. Paul. Do you really think it's a good idea to ask for more money to be taken away from the NHS, from education, from supporting small businesses, from spending to try and reduce the spread of this virus? Do you really think we should be taking more money away from that for individuals because they want compensation for being asked to wear a mask? Absolute idiot. I'm sorry, I do try and understand where people are coming from as often as I can, and I try and stay sensible and calm, but sometimes you hear something like this from someone like Paul, and you just want to call them a massive idiot. I mean, what does this guy think is happening exactly? Like, does he think this is some big conspiracy with every government worldwide? Like, right, okay, here's the thing. Every government leader in the world has all got together. They've had a little secret meeting that no one's been told about, right? They all get together, and you know, there's prime ministers and presidents and monarchs and dictators, and I don't know any other terms for leaders off the top of my head, I can't think. But the point is they're all there, and they have this little secret meeting, and one of them stands up, God knows who's the ringleader, that's the real conspiracy here, but one of them stands up and they say, look, we've never all agreed on anything, ever, in the history of the world. So how about, for our first big agreement, as every nation in the world, right, we try and prank the entire population, every single member of every single one of our countries. We just prank everyone, right? Okay, I've got this great idea. It's gonna be hilarious, right? First, we pretend there's this virus. Call it Corona or something. And then, just for lols, we kill off nearly 1 million people around the world just to like make it look real and stuff, right? Because we really gotta sell this, guys. I mean, downsides, I guess, it'll cost us a fortune. We'll have to do some stuff like setting up like temporary hospitals and whatever. I mean, we will screw over all of our economies, but hey, we're all in this together, right? It's all good. We will have to close shops and bars and schools and restaurants and basically every public place. So yeah, that'll take a toll, but it's all good, it's worth it. We will ruin the education of this generation, but again, all good, we can make it work, it'll be worth it. And everyone will be terrified, but can you imagine how funny this will be? Guys, actually, yeah, that was meant as a joke, but now I think about it, I think Paul might be right. It's a giant conspiracy, that's what happened, you heard it here first. Origins of COVID-19? Bam. Okay, up next we have a similar post from someone who at first seemed to be genuinely trying to like collate information about people's experiences with corona, but then with the second question and with everyone's responses and stuff, like it's just clear there's a bit of an agenda, and it's just a big stupid waste of time, isn't it? Open poll. 1. Roughly how many people do you personally know who've been declared corona infected? And 2. How many do you know who've been fighting despair, depression, or suicidal battles due to government shutdowns and social distancing? And then everyone's like, oh, I know no one who's been infected and everyone who's sad. All the comments were like that. There's no point picking out too many specifics. But yeah, look, I know I made a bit of a joke of it in that last point, but I'm gonna keep saying this, and I really do genuinely mean it. When people struggle with mental health issues during all this lockdown and corona stuff, It is incredibly serious, and it's not something to take lightly and just shrug off and say, oh, we'll deal with it. Not at all. People should be listened to and offered support where possible. However, the fact that people are having mental health issues does not diminish the fact that COVID-19 is a very serious and very real threat, and people are dying from it. Our concentration doesn't just have to be mental health or corona. It can be both. We should protect vulnerable people from dying from coronavirus by implementing measures like quarantining and lockdown and mask wearing and social distancing, but we should also offer support to people whose mental health is struggling because of it. It doesn't have to be an either or, and we can't just ignore these dying people because these people are sad. But similarly, we can't just ignore the sad and struggling people because there's a pandemic. We have to concentrate our efforts in both places. You know, it's like, some people's mental health suffers because of work, and people get stressed because of the job they're in and all the pressures and stuff like that. And that means they should be offered support, and they should get it, and they should get decent healthcare when they need it. It doesn't mean we should say, some people are struggling at work. We should just, like, do away with the economy. Like, no jobs, no money, everyone just has to fend for themselves. Yeah, that'll, like, totally improve mental health, right? Like I say, the answers are really revealing as well. Lots of people saying they don't know anyone who's had COVID personally. Like, one person saying that, like, acquaintances of acquaintances, I suppose, have been diagnosed with it, and they just, like, put it all down to hearsay and stuff and blah, blah, blah. I understand that sometimes if you haven't experienced it directly, it can be hard to relate for some people and hard to see how serious it is. Generally, if you haven't seen someone you know personally be ill or die from corona, it's a good thing, because it means that social distancing and lockdown and mask wearing and all that stuff, it means those measures are working. It's very, very difficult, because it's one of those cases where if these measures weren't working, we'd see a catastrophe, like more than we are now. But when they do work, we don't necessarily see anything, which means we don't realise they're working, which is why it can be very hard to kind of explain why this stuff is important to some people. Saying that, I do know people who have been diagnosed with COVID, and I do know people who have died from it. Mostly like dads and stepdads of my friends, and it's absolutely heartbreaking and unnecessary. And yes, those people were ill before. They both actually like gone through cancer treatments and stuff, and that's why they were so high risk and why they died from it. But just because they were ill, it doesn't mean they deserve to die. A lot of people say, oh, well, they were high risk anyway. Any virus could have killed them. Absolutely true. But that's why you protect those people. Any virus could kill them, but we don't want to kill them. We want to do everything we can to keep the people we love and care about alive. And then, of course, there are all the conspiracy theorist posts, and this one is so ridiculous I don't even know what to comment, so I'm just gonna... Just let me read this to you and you can make up your own mind. Do you believe the virus exists? Let me know your opinions. I believe it don't exist, especially after doing my research on Bill Gates. He's been on Epstein Island. He's watched kids get raped. He injured and killed millions of Indian people with vaccines. His wife is a man. His wife is Kevin Kilner. Research it. You can't make this poop up. Bill Gates said in 2011 he wants to depopulate the world through a vaccine. The NWO wants at least 500,000 people alive. He wants to depopulate a load of us billions. He's paralyzed millions of kids through vaccines, especially in Africa, where he tests his vaccines on African people like lab rats. Bill Gates is a sick demon. His vaccine, microchip technology, RFID chips, it all adds up to 666, the mark of the beast. This is more than the Bible. This plandemic goes deep. I don't believe there is a virus. The lack of punctuation just makes that so hard to read, never mind the content. I think my favourite is plandemic. I love a terrible pun. And then, oh my god, the comments were actually like really supportive of this. Like, not specifically this theory, but just conspiracy theories in general. Like this person who's like, it's a genetically modified coronavirus targeted to kill off the vulnerable and weak. Yeah, and speaking of delusions, we have this next post, which you will notice from the comments has just a slight hint of racism as well. So, you know, delusion, racism, thoughtlessness, the whole package. What's not to love about these people? So this person shared a news article called Moralistic Majority. Nearly 60% of mask wearers think non-maskers are bad people. It's a story about Britain, blah, blah, blah. This person shared it saying, poor indoctrinated souls. So Ursula. Maybe they should start giving thinking for yourself lessons. Because a piece of flowery fabric with strings on it, made in China, is most definitely going to protect from apparently the most dangerous virus the world has ever seen. And Catherine, oh good old Catherine, she says, because the mask wearers are delusional. Delusional. From breathing in their own carbon dioxide. Whereas Zara, definitely not racist Zara, says, I bet if the mask's coming from China, then no don't wear as the... I bet if the masks are coming from China, then no don't wear, as they could already be covered in the virus already. Their way of transportation of virus. Anyway, after those giggles, let's end on a slightly more ambiguous post/story, because I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this one, right? This is a little more unclear, like who's in the right and who's in the wrong and who should have done what, so please let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comments. So I go into Sainsbury's today, and I get this vile, disgusting man shouting at me because I had no mask on. And she posts a photo of this man wearing a mask, swearing at her, sticking 2 fingers up. You can tell this is up north, can't you? He tells me I should be wearing a mask to protect him. I tell him I don't have the virus. I keep asking him, does your mask work? He then pulls his mask down and coughed at me. I went effing mad. Security was called to ask me to calm down. Here he is posing for the picture. Angry face, angry face, angry face. So on the one hand, this guy definitely has a point that the person who posted this should be wearing a mask. And I do believe that certain sanctions and punishments should be in place for someone who doesn't follow those safety rules like mask wearing. However, you have to ask, is shouting at someone the most effective way to get your point across? No, it's not. But based on other posts that I've seen in this group by other non-mask wearers, the people who have asked politely and explained simply the reason for wearing masks and so on, and all those nice kind of polite, nice methods of trying to tell people to wear masks, they haven't worked either. So, is anything gonna work at this point? Moving on to the response and the argument, this man taking his mask off and coughing at someone is impolite at the best of times, but during this pandemic, that's not okay of him to do. But then again, this person who posted this had been wearing their mask and was sticking to social distancing rules. It wouldn't necessarily have mattered that this man took his mask off and coughed, because this person would be a little more protected than they were. And then again, you have to ask, if this person is out here not wearing a mask, they clearly don't think COVID-19 is such a big threat, so why are they getting mad about a man coughing on them? If you're so worried, wear a mask. If you're not worried, why are you mad? I'm all very confusing, Basically, there's lots of anger and emotion here, and I don't think any one person was completely right, but then again, I do think that the person who wasn't wearing a mask in public in a shopping centre, that is wrong, right? It's stupid. But anyway, I'm going to pass this over to you. Who do you think was in the right or wrong in this situation? Was it both of them? Was it one more than the other? What should be done? What would you have done if you were in this situation and you were either of these people? What would you have done if you were the security being called into this situation? One final point to end this is, if you want a giggle, this is more for people in the UK. There's this great comment from one person saying the most disappointing thing to them is how they thought Sainsbury's was supposed to be posh. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a Sainsbury's, but it's not what I would describe as posh by any means. Maybe compared to a Farm Foods, but yeah. Now, Waitrose is posh. Marks and Spencer's is posh. Sainsbury's isn't posh. And if you take one thing away from this very informative science-based video, I want it to be, is Sainsbury's posh? Anyway, that was just a silly thing to end this on. But thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this anti-mask group. Let me know what you think of anti-maskers in general, and if you've had any experience with anti-maskers. If I do have any people watching who are anti-maskers themselves, yourselves, if you're an anti-masker, then also please leave me a comment, because I genuinely want to hear what your reasoning is, why you don't believe you should be wearing a mask, what do you think makes you special from everyone else, how do you feel you're protecting yourself from the virus, do you even think the virus is a threat or not? Like, I'd love to just hear your reasoning and your logic behind all these things. So please, whoever you are, leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys and I read all the comments. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for letting me do this, even though it's a completely different setup and all the kind of weird stuff, and I have no idea if this mic is going to sound okay or if it might be a little bit background noisy. Thank you for putting up with Kubi Bear snoring in the background and making her bed a little bit. For now, I'm going to go and stop taking up my friend's bedroom and go be a human person somewhere else. Don't know where I'm going with this, I'm very tired. Thank you for watching today. I'll see you again very soon. I appreciate you all so much, and yeah, bye!